And let's first bring you all the other headlines that we're tracking for you this Wednesday morning. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on UK and Maldives visit from today through July 26th with focus on finalising India-UK free trade deals, strengthening defence and strategic ties, and attending Maldives Independence Day celebrations as the guest of honour. Union Cabinet approves free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom. Deal aims to boost exports, make British goods cheaper and double bilateral trade to $120 billion by the year 2030. Meanwhile, UK rolls out stricter immigration rules. Over 180 job roles dropped from skilled worker visa list. Salary threshold raised to 43.98 lakh rupees. No relief for settlement applicants. India ratifies the free trade agreement with EFTA bloc to come into effect from October 1st with a $100 billion investment promise and lower duties on Swiss watches, chocolates as well as diamonds. India defends Russian oil imports, warns against double standards as EU sanctions threaten Indian refinery and export earnings. The Supreme Court has allowed CBI to file 22 FIRs against builders and banks in NCR housing scam. Offers major relief to over 1,200 home buyers struggling with EMI burden under the subvention scheme. Air India flight from Hong Kong catches fire after landing in Delhi. Auxiliary power unit blaze erupts as passengers disembark. Aircraft grounded for further investigations. All on board safe. Hyundai Motor India gets a 517 crore rupee GST demand and penalty notice for alleged short payment of compensation cess on select SUV models between the years 2017 and 2020. Company to appeal the order. And Tata Group, Google India and Infosys ranked as top 3 employer brands in India for 2025 as Randstad report highlights shift towards purpose-driven careers as well as work-life balance. Let's start with the first story that we're tracking for you this morning, coming all the way from US. President Donald Trump has announced that the US and Japan have struck a trade deal that includes a 15% tariff on Japanese imports. In a Truth Social post, Trump said the pact includes $550 billion worth of Japanese investments into the United States. He also stated that Japan will expand market access for American manufacturers of cars, trucks, rice and other agriculture products. However, Trump did not mention any easing of the existing 25% auto tariffs, which apply to more than a quarter of Japan's exports to the US. Now, Trump's announcement reportedly followed a meeting with Japan's top trader at the White House on Tuesday. Listen in to what Donald Trump said.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and we worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong.
All right, Donald Trump there pom-pomming about his deal with Japan. Meanwhile, Trump also announced a new 19% tariff on imports from the Philippines. The move comes soon after Philippine president visit to White House. Trump also said U.S. goods heading to Philippines would now face zero tariffs under the revised agreement. Take a look.
We're going to talk about trade today.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced a new trade deal with the Philippines that includes a 19% tariff rate for goods coming from the country and zero tariffs on U.S. goods. The deal was reached after what Trump described on his Truth Social platform as a beautiful visit by Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to the White House. Trump added that the two Pacific allies would also work together militarily, but gave no details. Before the meeting, Marcos, the first Southeast Asian leader to meet Trump in his second term, described to reporters the importance of his country's relationship with the U.S.
Our strongest, closest, most reliable ally has always been the United States. That is something that we value, that we are grateful for, and that we will continue to foster.
The new tariff rate was just below the 20% threatened by Trump earlier this month, but it is still above the 17% rate set in April, when Trump announced what he called reciprocal tariff rates for dozens of countries. It matches the 19% rate announced for Indonesia, and Best Vietnam's slightly higher rate of 20%.
And on to other announcements made by Donald Trump. The United States and Indonesia have also reached a framework of a new trade agreement described as a landmark step under President Donald Trump's America First trade agenda. According to U.S. President Donald Trump's post on Truth Social, U.S. tariffs on Indonesian goods will be set at 19%, which is significantly lower than the 32% blanket duty initially proposed in April under Trump's Liberation Day tariff plan. Now, in return, Jakarta has agreed to eliminate most tariffs on American imports. The final negotiations to finalize the deal would continue over the next few weeks. The move comes amid a wave of bilateral trade pacts aimed at reshaping global trade on Donald Trump's terms, which is to prioritize U.S. market access while reducing deficits and rewarding countries willing to make concessions. And continuing with trade agreements, but shifting focus to India, now Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a visit to the United Kingdom and the Maldives from today, July 23rd till July 26th. The focus of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Britain and the Maldives will be strengthening trade and defence cooperation, with the formalisation of the landmark India-UK free trade deal set to be the key outcome of his trip to London. The Prime Minister will first travel to the UK on Wednesday on a two-day trip and then visit the Maldives primarily to grace the island nation's Independence Day celebrations as the guest of honour. MEA informed that during the visit, Prime Minister Modi will hold key meetings with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and King Charles. Remember, the two Prime Ministers have already met twice, most recently at the G7 summit. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said the visit presents an opportunity to conduct a comprehensive review of the bilateral relationship between the two nations. As far as highlights of his visit to the UK are concerned, the Prime Minister and his counterpart Keir Starmer will review progress under India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership focused specifically on trade and economy, as well as technology, defence, security, education and people-to-people exchanges during the bilateral meeting scheduled for July 24th. Listen into what Vikram Misri had to say.
Our bilateral trade crossed $55 billion in 2023-24. The UK is also the sixth largest investor in India with a cumulative investment of $36 billion. And interestingly, India itself is a large source of foreign direct investment in the UK with a cumulative investment of close to $20 billion. There are close to 1,000 Indian companies in the UK that provide employment to nearly 100,000 people. In the defense sector, we are seeing regular interactions and exercises amongst all three branches of the armed forces. We have placed military instructors at each other's military academies. And one of the more significant partnership projects that we have embarked on in recent times is the agreement to look at electric propulsion capability between the two countries.
Meanwhile, back home, the Union Cabinet has approved the free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom. The deal will be signed in London on July 24 during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the UK. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will also be part of that visit. Now, the agreement is called the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. India and the UK had announced the end of negotiations for this trade deal on May 6 this year. The deal will help Indian exporters by removing taxes on products like leather goods, footwear and clothes. It will also make some British products like whiskey and cars cheaper to buy in India. The goal is to double trade between the two countries to $120 billion by the year 2030. The agreement also covers trade in services, technology, government contracts and rules around intellectual property. After the signing, the UK Parliament will have to approve it for the agreement to officially come into effect. India and the UK have also finished talks on a social security agreement which will stop Indian professionals working in the UK for a short time from paying social security in both the countries. However, talks are still going on for a bilateral investment treaty, which is a separate agreement altogether. And big changes are coming for Indians planning to work or study in the United Kingdom. UK has rolled out a new set of immigration rules that will directly impact thousands of Indian workers as well as students. These are the first major changes under the new Labour government's immigration policy announced in May this year. One of the biggest changes is to the skilled worker visa, which is getting stricter on both job eligibility as well as salary levels. First, skill thresholds are going up. From July 22nd, anyone applying for a skilled worker visa must now have a job that matches the UK's bachelor degree level called RQF level 6. This means nearly 180 job roles, especially in hospitality, logistics and care, like care assistants, chefs and delivery supervisors, will no longer qualify. But if employers issue a certificate of sponsorship before July 21st, the current rules will still apply, even for roles that won't be eligible after the deadline. Next up, salary requirements are also rising for skilled worker visa. The minimum salary is going up for about 45 lakh rupees annually. Other visa routes like global business mobility and scale up are also seeing higher salary benchmarks. And most importantly, even if someone already has a skilled worker visa, they must meet the new salary level when applying for indefinite leave to remain, which is the UK's version of a permanent residency. There's no transitional relief, which means the new salary rules apply immediately from July 22nd. And India has taken a key step forward in its trade ties with Europe as India officially submitted the ratification document of the free trade agreement with the four-nation European bloc EFTA to Norway. The pact is called the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, or TEPA. It was signed on March 10th this year and will come into effect from October 1st, as confirmed by Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. Now, as part of the deal, India will receive a $100 billion investment over the next 15 years from the EFTA group. In return, India will allow lower or zero import duties on several European products, including Swiss watches, chocolates, and cut and polished diamonds. The EFTA group includes Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland, all key economic partners for India in Europe. And in another major development, India is pushing back against fresh criticism from Western countries over India's oil trade with Russia. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri defended India's continued imports of Russian oil, saying that energy security is a top priority for India. He said it's unfair to look at the global energy crisis only from a European point of view. Misri acknowledged the serious security situation in Europe due to the Russia-Ukraine war. But he stressed that many other countries, including India, are also dealing with major challenges, especially when it comes to affordable and reliable energy. He warned against double standards in global energy discussions and said the rest of the world also faces existential issues that must be considered. Misri further called for a balanced and fair global approach when it comes to energy policy as well as sanctions. Now, his remarks come as the European Union has announced a new set of sanctions to cut off Russia's oil revenue. These include stricter rules on fuels made from Russian crude, a lower price cap, and new banking restrictions. The EU's move may also impact countries like Turkey and the UAE, which refine Russian crude and export products like diesel and jet fuel, often back to Europe. According to experts, this crackdown could hurt India's export earnings and create challenges for its energy trade at a time when global oil prices remain unstable. Let's listen into Vikram Misri again.
In any case, we have made very clear our view with regard to secondary sanctions. I think what you are pointing to in terms of the recent announcement by the European Union, we have been very clear that insofar as energy security is concerned, it is the highest priority of the Government of India to provide energy security for the people of India, and we will do what we need to do with regard to that. On energy-related issues itself also, as we have said previously, it is important not to have double standards and to have a clear-eyed perception of what the global situation is insofar as the broader energy market is concerned and where the providers of energy goods are located and where they're going to come from and who needs energy at what point in time.
All right, and moving to the National Capital Region now, there's a big win for over 1,200 home buyers in Delhi NCR. The Supreme Court has given the go-ahead to the Central Bureau of Investigation to file as many as 22 FIRs against builders and banks accused of cheating flat buyers. Now, these cases relate to housing projects under the subvention scheme, where banks were to pay EMIs until possession, but builders defaulted. Now, banks are demanding EMIs from buyers who haven't received their flats as yet. The court has also given the CBI 6 more weeks to widen its probe into more such cases, possibly involving prominent developers. Meanwhile, it has directed the district judge in Gurugram to submit a report on why lower courts are still issuing tough orders against home buyers despite its earlier projection. And moving on to brands that people like to work for, Tata Group, Google India and Infosys have been named India's top 3 most attractive employer brands for the year 2025. This according to the latest Randstad Employer Brand Research Report. As per the report, Indian employees are now giving more importance to purpose-driven jobs with work-life balance, equity and attractive salary and benefits being the top expectations from employers. Tata Group topped the list for its strong financial health, career growth opportunities and a good reputation. Meanwhile, Google India moved up the ranking to take the 2nd spot, while Infosys secured the 3rd place. The top 10 also include companies like Samsung India, JP Morgan Chase, IBM, Wipro, Reliance Industries, Dell Technologies and State Bank of India, which made it to the list as the only Indian public sector bank. Hyundai India, meanwhile, faces GST heat. The car maker has received a tax demand of over 517 crore rupees from GST authority. That's 258 crore rupees in cess and an equal amount in penalty. The case involves alleged short payment of GST compensation cess on some of its SUV models between September 2017 and March 2020. Hyundai, however, says the government's recent clarifications back its position. The company said it is reviewing the order and plans to challenge it through legal means. Hyundai also clarified that this development will not impact its financials or day-to-day operations in any way. Now, this comes at a time when automakers are already dealing with evolving tax norms as well as regulatory scrutiny. Time for a short break. When we come back, Mohit Gang will be here to decode the momentum that we are likely to see in IT stocks today, especially as Infosys, Persistent Systems and Coforge are all set to announce their Q1 results. Also, we will discuss with Mohit Gang the turnaround of sorts for Vijay Shekhar Sharma's Paytm. This is Morning Brief at 9.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर डायना प्रीमियम ब्यूटी सोप, पहली झलक करे खूबसूरत।
रास्ता है वही वही शहर, बदले हैं नजारे या नजर।
चाचा, इतना सारा पानी, ट्यूबवेल, बिजली तो आती जाती है। ये सब वो अपना सूरज है ना, सब उसका कमाल है।
सूरज
तो कब आए अभी लाइट से?
अरे वाह ताई, पहचान गई। शहर जाके आँख का ऑपरेशन करा लिया क्या?
शहर जा मेरी जूती, नहीं यहीं अपने गांव में ही करवा लिया। वो जो सूरज है ना अपना वो सब कर रहा है।
अरे राकेश, अरे वाह छोटी, ये स्कूल में सीखा?
इंटरनेट पे।
इंटरनेट?
हाँ, सूरज भैया है ना।
कौन है ये सूरज भैया?
आपको उनसे मिलना है क्या?
हाँ
चलो, वो रहे सूरज भैया।
हम सूरज से सिर्फ बिजली नहीं बनाते हैं, खुशहाली को देश के कोने कोने तक भी पहुंचाते हैं। अदानी, हम करके दिखाते हैं।
बुझने लगे किसी की उमंग को, उसको तरंग दो, दुनिया को रंग दो। दुनिया को रंग दो।
Birla Opus Paints.
Fresh air. The roof, but different. The grill, but different. The alloys, but different. The seats, but different. Different is in the XUV 3XO Rev X series, starting at rupees 8.94 lakh.
A small window of hope has opened for Nimisha Priya. You know, human beings live by hope. Is Vijay challenging Dravidian party? Payments have been made, but no books inside. If there is corruption at the BO office, maybe I want to learn Hindi, that I do not know how to speak Kannada. Go to the second part.
to have Hindi compulsion.
2 kids were asked to clean the toilet because of their caste. All these kids were forced to do it. I will clearly protest against this. 3 passes, Mr. Gowda. People rush. I'm asking you, what makes Palaniswamy so confident? We're sitting on moral boulders. Tamil Nadu seems to have become extremely unsafe.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's bring you all the action from Dalal Street this morning as markets have just opened. Not too much momentum, but nothing really to complain about. Sensex and Nifty both in the green territory this morning. The stocks on these indices are on an average up about 1/3 of a percentage point or so. Let's pull up the charts for this morning and look at the action that we're also seeing from the small cap and the mid cap space. Well, small cap is down, in fact, more or less flat this morning, but slightly down at just about second decimal points of 0.01%. Meanwhile, like we told you, Nifty 50 holding above the 25,100 mark. Sensex is just about in the territory of about 82,420 odd points. So we don't really have, much to celebrate in the markets, except for the fact that perhaps markets are continuing to wait for a trigger, some sort of a trade deal, some clarity on which way the world is moving. And of course, we are in the middle of the Q1 earnings season, and Mohit Gang is here to tell us all about what to expect in Q1 earnings, especially from the auto pack. Mohit, good morning. Let's first start with the big one. Infosys is all set to announce its Q1 results today, albeit after markets close. But it's not just Infosys alone. We also have other companies in the IT pack, especially the likes of Persistent Systems and Coforge. Is it time to break that jinx that we have seen with companies like TCS, Wipro, as well as HCL Tech?
Hi Karthik, morning. Always a pleasure to be on your show. Look, I think I've maintained it on your show that it's perhaps a little too early for us to be taking a large call on the IT space per se, right? Here and there, some mid-cap IT names where the stories are really good and unfolding in a big way, perhaps yes, you can. But on the overall pack, on the overall sector, I still continue to remain a little cautious. I think the mood check in US has to come pretty strong for the IT pack overall to run and give us a very positive uptick for a sustained period of time. Also, I would watch out for US rate cuts as and when they come through, and when are they likely to come through, and what's the commentary coming out from the US Fed before actually moving into this pack. So my sense still would remain that we would have to watch it out for at least 2 quarters more, if not less.
2 quarters more to watch out for IT stocks, and cautious undertone is what Mohit Gang is talking about. But Mohit, specifically on guidance that one is expecting to hear from Infosys, what are some of the keywords that you would keep on your radar to plan your investments ahead?
Look, I think Infosys has continued to be a bellwether stock on the IT side. I'm pretty surprised that they're coming out with results on 23rd this time, and they're pretty late in the pecking order, which to me, I'm still not really aware of the reasons as to why the results are coming so late. But on the commentary side, obviously, I think one will have to see on the basic numbers, which is your dollar guidance, the dollar revenue guidance, so on and so forth. But I think the bigger items to be watched are A, big deals, and B, the hiring numbers. I think these are two big markers for me, which I would want to see in terms of the new hiring, the fresh hiring. What are they up to? What is the current employee strength? What are the plans to increase the employee strength? So on and so forth. And the second is a big deal number. Are there any big deal announcements? What are they likely to see for the next year? So I think these are the two big markers for me. Other than that, honestly, I expect it to be perhaps pretty muted. I don't think so that Infosys will, maybe it will not be as insignificant as the TCS results, perhaps a tad better, but I don't think so there is any positive surprise for us in the waiting out there.
All right, no positive surprise expected from Infosys and its guidance. Meanwhile, stay with us, Mohit. Let's move on to another story that we're tracking by way of results that came from 197 Communication. Paytm yesterday. Paytm has reported its first ever consolidated net profit at over 120 crore rupees. This against a net loss of 840 crore rupees in the same quarter last year. Meanwhile, interesting announcements coming from Vijay Shekhar Sharma, including the fact that marketing costs have been halved to under 100 crore rupees. Also, employee benefits are now being cut by as much as 300 crore rupees. And overall, we are also seeing that the average monthly transacting user base has reached 7.4 crore transactions. So overall, is it too early yet to call it a turnaround for Vijay Shekhar Sharma and a turnaround for Paytm? And what do these numbers really mean for investors who have been taking those long bets on Paytm, Mohit?
Karthik, very, very interesting set of results. Look, honestly, I think the action in the new age consumption stocks, whether be Eternal, whether be Paytm, has been extremely significant for last few days. Look, and I think everyone in the market is kind of watching these stocks, the whole pack per se. I think the two results, one of Eternal and second of Paytm, have kind of picked up the entire pack and the energy around these names once again, and they're all buzzing, right? Turning PAT profitable is a huge milestone by all stretches of imagination, and though the street was expecting it to come out in this quarter, but it's a very decent number, very healthy number, and the guidance is also very good, right? They're giving a guidance of EBITDA on around, if I'm not wrong, around 16 to 18% guidance around EBITDA for coming quarters, right? So my sense is one will have to honestly look from trading perspective. It's a great call. It's a great thing. We have seen a lot of brokerage houses giving a revised upward target price for Paytm. So I think that all augurs very well. But from a sustainability perspective, one will have to watch out for at least a 2-3 quarter kind of a run rate in terms of what they do, how they end up. Look, reducing employee costs, reducing expenses is one way of turning PAT profitable, but the other and the more sustainable way is to increase your revenues and to have a healthy run rate going ahead, right? So I'll be watching out for that. But yeah, I think one with high risk appetite can perhaps take a look at these names now.
Surprisingly, Mohit, the stock seems to be down this morning. In fact, it's down about 0.2% or so. Why do you think investors are not reacting favorably to at least the profitability that Paytm has shown for the first time?
I'm pretty surprised, Karthik, if the stock is down. Honestly, I think I saw the first look in the morning at around 3.5% up in the morning. And though I'm not on the screen right now, so I can't track it. But if the stock is down, I'm pretty surprised. Perhaps it could be a bout of profit taking. Maybe it's like buy on rumor and sell on news kind of a thing which is happening out there, and maybe some profit is getting off the table. But I think, look, it's not a bad, as I said, for a high risk investor, it just might not be a bad trade. You will obviously need the overall market sentiment to work in favor for it. But if the commentary is sustainable or something is sustainable, that's what the market might be watching out for. As I said, Karthik, I think, look, reducing managerial expenses and reducing other expenses and marketing expenses and then turning profitable is one thing, but turning profitable with a sustainable run rate and a sustainable revenue base is something else, right? So I'm not sure if market has read something in the fine prints of the entire results, and maybe that's where this is happening. I'll have to look out for that. But yeah, as I said, I think I'll watch out for another 2-3 quarters to firm up my views on these names.
All right, let's move on also to another company, Mohit, which announced its results yesterday, and this comes by way of the Make in India smartphone story. Dixon Tech, which has made a splash pretty much with its earnings report yesterday. Dixon has reported a twofold increase in consolidated net profit. Net profit for Q1 2026 was at 280 crore rupees versus as little as 113 crore rupees the previous year in the same quarter. Revenue from operations has doubled to about 12,800 odd crore rupees, with the mobile division contributing to 91% of revenue. So overall, Dixon Tech pretty much on expected lines, in sync with the smartphone wave that we've been seeing, the boom that we've been seeing in the electronic space, and a true example of Make in India, and now also by way of doubling of revenue and profits, Mohit?
Look, I think Karthik, Dixon is one of those plays which you want to ride on from the Make in India perspective. They are perhaps making equipments, making things which were hitherto not available in India. They are like the OEM suppliers, and they are like the biggest manufacturers for a lot of those foreign players in the market, in Indian markets, right? So I think it's a great story. It's just that it's a pretty expensive stock, honestly. I think it's a very, very expensive stock. The margins are wafer thin in this kind of a business, right? And perhaps any big player moving out from them, though that's not likely a possibility, but moving out from them can also be a risk metric to watch out for. But the way the results have come in, it's 100% increase on the PAT side. So I think it's a fantastic story going on right now for Dixon and Indian market. Look, the demand for smartphones, the demand for all these electrical equipments will only keep growing up in our kind of market. So my sense is the runway, the road ahead is extremely good. I think they'll have to work on their EBITDA margins a bit and try and shore up that. The valuations obviously are expensive, but then that's the case for every good stock on the street, right? So I think, yeah, it's a great story, but one has to tread with caution given the valuations right now at which it is trading on.
All right. And finally, before I let you go, Mohit, a view on what's happening around the world, especially with respect to now the trade deals or the tariff deals, no matter what you call it, being announced by Donald Trump on Truth Social with countries in Asia, including Japan, Philippines, as well as Indonesia. Well, the negotiations with India seem to be going back and forth, and now we are hearing that the US negotiation team is going to be in India in the month of August. Overall, the direction of tariff still seems to be in line with what Donald Trump had originally wanted and proposed. Well, a little lower, 25% maybe gets cut down to 15% in the case of Indonesia or Philippines, or 32% gets cut down to 19%. But overall, tariffs are likely to be imposed one way or another. Is that your reading as well? And given that, what is the kind of view that investors should take with respect to their investments in the markets, as well as non-market linked investments like gold, for example, at this stage?
Look, I think tariff is a reality to stay, and I think everyone in the world has kind of aligned to it. The number could differ from country to country, and it will be in India's good long-term benefit if we can negotiate a better number or a better deal with the US, which my sense is the delay is kind of give us an indication that we are bargaining our chips extremely hard with US, right? The deal with Japan is a historic one, and perhaps they might declare one more with EU tomorrow, right? So I think US is signing and inking deals by the day. India and China both continues to remain a sore prick, basically from a US's perspective. And my sense is they have a deliberation with China again this month and with India in the month of August. I think the stars are aligning for us to declare a trade deal somewhere around 15th of August, marking the Indian Independence Day. And I'll not be surprised if that will give a positive boost up or a leg up through the markets. Look, markets always factor in the worst, right? So, and anything which comes out from here will only give us a positive impetus. That's my reading out of it, right? So the worst has already been factored in. That's the reason the market has just not been moving for last so many days. And perhaps the trade deal might just give us a leg up on that. With regards to the second part on the yellow metal, look, I think the yellow and the white metal both continue to remain from an investment perspective, continue to remain fantastic, though I'm not so much bullish on gold right now as I am on silver currently.
All right, well, more bullish on silver than gold, and of course some announcement on the trade deal or the tariff front may give markets a leg up. Mohit Gang, always a pleasure having you here on Newsline. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And with that, we slip into another short break, but more stories coming up for you on the other side. You're watching Newsline.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर एंकर टूथपेस्ट, नए जमाने की नई सुरक्षा।
रास्ता है वही वही शहर, बदले हैं नजारे या नजर।
चाचा इतना सारा पानी, ट्यूबवेल, बिजली तो आती जाती है, ये सब अपना सूरज है ना, सब उसका कमाल है। सूरज
राकेश, तू कब आया अभी लाइट से?
अरे वाह ताई, पहचान गई। शहर जाके आँख का ऑपरेशन करा लिया क्या?
शहर जाए मेरी जूती, मैंने यहीं अपने गांव में ही करवा लिया। वो जो सूरज है ना अपना, वो सब कर रहा है।
अरे राकेश,
अरे राकेश,
अरे वाह छोटी, ये स्कूल में सीखा?
इंटरनेट पे।
इंटरनेट?
हाँ, सूरज भैया है ना।
कौन है ये सूरज भैया?
आपको उनसे मिलना है क्या?
हाँ
चलो, वो रहे सूरज भैया।
हम सूरज से सिर्फ बिजली नहीं बनाते हैं, खुशहाली को देश के कोने कोने तक भी पहुंचाते हैं। अडानी, हम करके दिखाते हैं।
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's shift focus now to air safety. Well, the recent Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad, which claimed several lives, has put a sharp focus to the safety standards of Indian aviation. Now, as the sector deals with the aftermath of the tragedy, a series of troubling incidents has sparked concerns over flight safety, with technical issues leading to emergency landings, flight cancellations, as well as near misses. Now, from faulty baggage doors to malfunctioning landing gear and other technical glitches, the recent wave of incidents has left passengers unsettled and the aviation industry urgently searching for solutions. Now, let's list down for you some of the recent incidents where aircraft were forced to make emergency landings, diversions or delays due to these technical snags. First up, let's pull up Air India. An Air India plane caught fire shortly after landing at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport yesterday. The Air India flight AI315 operating from Hong Kong to New Delhi experienced an auxiliary power unit fire shortly after it landed and parked at the gate. Now, the incident, according to the airline, occurred as passengers were disembarking when the auxiliary power unit automatically shut down as designed. Now, the flight sustained some damage and has been grounded for further investigations. Now, all passengers and crew members of the Hong Kong to Delhi flight later disembarked safely. But well, this isn't the only incident after the horrific Ahmedabad crash. In fact, in another incident, an Air India flight flying in from Kochi had a close shave on Monday while landing in Mumbai after it veered off the rain-soaked runway. Pictures show a clump of grass sucked to the rear part of the aircraft and signs of damage on one of the engines. Sources have indicated that 3 tires burst during the landing and the aircraft's engine may have been damaged as well. All passengers aboard the aircraft did come out safely as well. Now, it's not just Air India, even Indigo has been facing challenges when it comes to safety concerns. Now, Indigo flight 6E813 from Goa's Dabolim Airport to Indore on July 21st reported a technical snag related to its landing gear shortly before landing. The aircraft landed safely and mandatory checks were initiated before it could resume operations. Back to Air India, another flight from Delhi to Kolkata, which was scheduled to depart at 7:30 p.m. on July 21st, aborted takeoff due to a technical issue detected during the takeoff roll. the cockpit crew decided to discontinue the takeoff following the standard operating procedures. Back to Indigo, another aircraft en route to Imphal returned to the national capital on July 17th due to another technical snag after being airborne for about an hour. An Indigo flight en route Lucknow to Chandigarh, from Chandigarh, was cancelled on June 22nd after the pilot identified a technical issue during pre-flight checks, marking yet another instance of flight cancellations. On June 20th, a month back, an Indigo flight operating from Guwahati to Chennai with 168 passengers made an emergency landing at Bengaluru's Kempagoda International Airport after the pilot issued a Mayday distress call due to critically low fuel. Meanwhile, Air India is seeking a bank loan of about $200 million to purchase a fleet of Boeing 777 planes from a US-based aircraft leasing company. And from aviation, let's move to the strength of the Indian passport, which has climbed 8 places to the 77th spot globally in the latest Henley Passport Index 2025 released yesterday. Now, this means Indian passport holders can now travel to 59 countries without needing to apply for a visa in advance. Now, the top of the global list is Singapore, once again claiming the world's most powerful passport position. Singaporeans enjoy visa-free access to 193 out of a total of 227 countries and territories. Asian countries continue to dominate the rankings. Japan and South Korea are in the second place with access to 190 destinations. They're followed closely by several European Union countries, including France, Germany and Spain, which are in third places with visa-free access to 189 nations. New Zealand, along with Switzerland and Greece, round out to the top 5. And a quick look at some of the global stories that we have been tracking for you this morning once again. US President Donald Trump announces major trade deal with Japan, 15% tariff on Japanese imports, 550 billion Japanese investments into the US. Trump calls it the largest trade pact ever. Donald Trump also unveils new 19% tariff on goods from the Philippines, while cutting tariffs on US exports to the island nation to 0 under the revised deal. US and Indonesia reached framework agreement under Trump's America First trade agenda, lowering tariffs on Indonesian goods to 19%, while Jakarta agrees to scrap most duties on US imports. To other stories that we're tracking for you this morning, President Donald Trump criticizes Fed Chair Jerome Powell for keeping interest rates too high, suggests Powell's term could be ending very soon. Trump also says he may soon travel to China for a potential summit with President Xi Jinping as both sides explore ways to de-escalate tensions on trade and security. Agreeing to President Donald Trump, Coca-Cola confirms plans to roll out new cane sugar-based beverage in the United States this year, aligning with Trump's Make America Healthy Again vision. Russian lawmakers approve sweeping legislation that fines citizens for reading or searching for online content deemed extremist, expanding digital censorship and threatening access to platforms like WhatsApp. Elon Musk's X rejects France's investigation into data practices and algorithm bias, calling the probe a threat to free speech and refusing to cooperate with what it calls a baseless inquiry. And China's top EV maker BYD pushes back mass production at its Hungary plant to 2026, dealing a blow to the EU's hopes of attracting Chinese EV jobs. We'll get you these stories on the other side of the break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर एंकर टूथपेस्ट, नए जमाने की नई सुरक्षा.
Go condoms?
It's over there.
क्या ये डिफरेंट साइजेस में आता है?
एक्चुअली सर साइज मैटर नहीं करता.
तो फिर क्या मैटर करता है?
द हार्डनेस
ऑफ द कॉन्डम.
of what's inside.
For the first time ever, presenting Hard Rock Gel, the hardness gel for men.
अब फ्री हर स्कोर कॉन्डम्स के 10 पैक के साथ.
एक मिनट.
क्या हुआ?
अभी से इतना खर्चा करोगे तो मेरी पढ़ाई का क्या करोगे?
तुमने पहले ही लाइफ इंश्योरेंस का चाइल्ड प्लान सोच रखा है इसके लिए.
बढ़िया है.
सपनों को रखो सुरक्षित चाइल्ड प्लान के साथ. सबसे पहले लाइफ इंश्योरेंस.
Fresh air. The grill, but different.
The alloys, but different.
The sunroof, but different.
The seats, but different.
Different is in the XUV 3XO Rev X series, starting at rupees 8.94 lakh.
रास्ता है वही शहर, बदले हैं नजारे या नजर.
चाचा इतना सारा पानी, ट्यूबवेल, बिजली तो आती जाती है. ये सब अपना सूरज है ना, सब उसका कमाल है.
राकेश, तू कब आया अभी लाइट से?
अरे वाह ताई, पहचान गई. शहर जाके आँख का ऑपरेशन करा लिया क्या?
शहर जाए मेरी जूती. नहीं यहीं अपने गांव में ही करवा लिया. वो जो सूरज है ना अपना, वो सब कर रहा है.
अरे राकेश. अरे वाह छोटी, ये स्कूल में सीखा?
इंटरनेट पे.
इंटरनेट?
हाँ, सूरज भैया है ना.
कौन है ये सूरज भैया?
आपको उनसे मिलना है क्या?
हाँ?
चलो, वो रहे सूरज भैया.
हम सूरज से सिर्फ बिजली नहीं बनाते हैं, खुशहाली को देश के कोने कोने तक भी पहुंचाते हैं. अडानी, हम करके दिखाते हैं.
Welcome back. You're watching News 9 on to stories that we're tracking for you from around the world this morning. At a White House news conference on Tuesday, US President Donald Trump once again blasted Federal Chair Reserve Jerome Powell for keeping interest rates too high and hinted that Powell's term may be ending soon. The Fed is expected to maintain its benchmark rate in the 4.25 to 4.50% range at next week's policy meeting, with officials warning that Trump's tariffs may drive inflation higher and arguing that a rate cut now could prematurely stoke price pressures. Powell, widely criticized by Trump for not lowering interest rates sooner, faces mounting pressure despite securing 3 rate cuts last year. His current term runs through May 15th of 2026.
I think he's doing a bad job, but he's going to be out pretty soon anyway. In eight months, he'll be out. But I call him too late. He's too late all the time. He should have lowered interest rates many times. Europe lowered their rate 10 times. We lowered ours none. And it's causing a problem for people that want to buy a home. Look, our economy is so strong now, we're blowing through everything. We're setting records. You know that, you see that. And whether it's the Philippines or anyone else, we're setting records at levels that nobody's ever seen before. But you know what? People aren't able to buy a house because this guy is a numbskull. He keeps the rates too high.
Well, President Trump also said on Tuesday that he may be traveling to China soon for a possible summit with President Xi Jinping, signaling a potential thaw amid ongoing trade and security tensions. Media reports suggest aides from both sides have quietly discussed a high-stakes meeting during Trump's expected Asia tour later this year. While no date has yet been confirmed, the proposed visit could mark a turning point in strained US-China ties. Trade imbalances, technology restrictions and military friction in the Indo-Pacific region have all heightened bilateral tensions since Trump reintroduced tariffs and sanctions earlier this year. Listen to what Trump had to say.
President Xi has invited me to China, and we'll probably be doing that in the not too distant future, a little bit out, but not too distant. And I've been invited by a lot of people, and we'll make those decisions pretty soon.
And US stocks ended mixed on Tuesday with the S&P 500 closing on a record high. General Motors posted sharp losses while Tesla led gains as investors balanced recent and upcoming earnings reports alongside hopes for a progress in US trade negotiations. More in this report.
U.S. stocks ended mixed on Tuesday as the Dow added 0.4%, the S&P 500 ticked up marginally to eke out another record high, and the Nasdaq shed roughly 0.4%. Investors' concerns over President Donald Trump's erratic trade policy came into sharp focus after General Motors reported a $1 billion hit from tariffs to its quarterly results. Shares of the largest U.S. automaker tumbled more than 8%. U.S. trade policy remains a major point of uncertainty for investors and companies as Trump's self-imposed August 1st trade deadline approaches, says Dean Smith, chief strategist and portfolio manager at Folio Beyond.
The uncertainty that the on-again, off-again tariff policy announcements is really starting to affect prices and returns for different sectors of the market and different parts of the economy differently. I think that the likelihood is that the August 1st deadline gets pushed back yet again. Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, has already announced that the August 12th deadline pertaining to China is going to be pushed back. We think that this uncertainty is going to continue to drive the markets, both fixed income equities, for quite some time to come.
Among other movers, shares of Tesla and Google parent Alphabet rose a day before both companies report earnings results. On the flip side, shares of Philip Morris slumped nearly 8.5% after reporting second quarter revenue below expectations as shipments of its Zyn nicotine pouches disappointed investors. And shares of Lockheed Martin tumbled almost 11% after its quarterly profit plunged by about 80%.
And staying with the U.S., Coca-Cola announced plans on Tuesday to roll out a new product made with real cane sugar in the United States later this year, a major shift in its ingredient sources spurred by growing consumer health awareness and pressure from Washington. This move aligns with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again campaign and follows President Donald Trump's statement last week that Coca-Cola had agreed to transition away from high fructose corn syrup in the U.S. market. And China's top EV maker BYD is reportedly postponing mass production at its new Hungary factory until 2026 and plans to run it below capacity for at least 2 years. Sources say BYD will instead begin car production sooner at its Turkey facility where labor costs are lower. Experts say this may be a major blow to EU hopes of luring Chinese EV jobs. Take a look.
China's BYD will delay mass production at its new electric vehicle factory in Hungary until 2026, according to sources, and will reportedly run the plant to below capacity for at least the first 2 years. One source added that at the same time, China's number one automaker will start making cars earlier than expected at a new plant in Turkey, where labour costs are lower. Shifting production away from Hungary in favour of Turkey would be a setback for the European Union. It's been hoping that its tariffs on EVs made in China would bring in Chinese investments and well-paid manufacturing jobs. BYD's $4.64 billion plant in southern Hungary will reportedly start mass production in 2026, but only make a few tens of thousands of vehicles over the whole year. That would be a fraction of the plant's initial production capacity. Meanwhile, one source added that BYD's $1 billion plant in western Turkey will far exceed 150,000 cars in 2027. BYD did not respond to requests for comment. The automaker is building the plant in Hungary to sell cars in Europe tariff-free. All the cars it currently sells in Europe are made in China and subject to EU anti-subsidy tariffs on Chinese-made EV imports. Its total tariff is 27%.
And that's all we have for you on the Morning Brief at 9 this morning. Thank you so much for watching, but news continues right here on News 9, so stay tuned.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर एंकर टूथपेस्ट, नए जमाने की नई सुरक्षा।
Hi, this is Baman Irani.
Hi, this is Karishma Tanna. Hi, I'm Nusha Bharucha. Catch this conversation on News 9. Catch this conversation on News 9.
Catch me and this conversation on News 9.
Hi, this is Shahid Kapoor and catch this conversation on News 9.
Women in West Bengal should be assured that it is a safe